Hi, everybody. I am Carmen DeVelas, founder of Doggies for Dementia, and welcome to Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. And today's guest is Kelly Carter, who I really, really love, and I know you're going to love this because we're going to talk about gratitude. Kelly is a speaker, author, trainer, catalyst coach, and known as the manifestologist. And yes, I did have to practice that. She shares the art of manifestation. Welcome, Kelly.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Fabulous.
Yes. And so I'm excited. Today we're going to talk about the COVID-19 experience and gratitude. I don't think there's any person in the country who hasn't been impacted in some way, and some in really big, big ways. And so the thought of gratitude along with a crisis, is something I need to hear about.
Yeah. And I can see, there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of uncertainty, and we see it in our programming and like the commercials, in these uncertain times, everybody keeps talking about. This is an unprecedented time. And from the absolute beginning of it, I've been like, yeah, it's unknown, but there's been this like almost excitement of like, well, what's going to be birthed, right? Anytime something comes forth, anytime something is birth is kind of a explosive, disorganized process. So it feels to me almost like this needed to happen. If we look at even environmentally, we look at like the photos, I think it was what the Himalayan mountains are actually being able to be seen now that haven't been able to in years, because we've taken this huge pause. So like to be grateful for the fact that we have time to spend with our families. We've got two boys here that we're doing remote schooling with, 11 and 10. And I was talking about it today. Like, I'm grateful that I actually know what they're learning now. Like, we asked them when they'd come home on a regular school day, what'd you do in school today? Nothing. So now we're actually involved. I'm not going to say it doesn't have its challenges, because it definitely does, but it's just looking at every little thing. Like, what is there to be grateful for in this moment? And there's been so much change. It's almost like, how could you not find something to be grateful for?
Yeah, and I've noticed even on the social media posts, maybe it's my group of friends, because my son said the opposite, but what I see is a lot of how much they are really noting things about their families that they didn't have time for, and are doing some different activities that they hadn't done before. And I had a guest, and I asked her, what makes you pause with awe? What was it? And she was talking about just playing a simple game with her kids, that she hadn't stopped to enjoy that in so long, always thinking about what she needed to do next as an entrepreneur, what comes next, and it never ends, right?
Right.
And that to her was really profound. And I thought, wow, yeah, this is in many ways, this is a time to actually pause and reflect. And just to pause, maybe pause and just be.
Yeah, I've heard people refer to this time, and perhaps it will be referred to in history as the Great Pause. And, like I said, environmentally, satellites showing the environmental impact, like over China, we can go out and breathe fresh air. How many people do you see walking around the neighborhoods? I know people are staying home, but they're also getting out more than they used to. People who had the regular 9 to 5s. Yeah. There's so many things. So many people have lost their employment, and yet, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? Right. You need to reinvent. We've had so many different things that have come up even for us, because as a speaker, I'm not doing, events with rooms of people to talk to, speaking and training. Yes, I'm doing some online things, but that's caused us to reinvent and be able to do things online. And there's so much gratitude in that. It's like there's so much innovation, and I'm an innovator at heart. I love the idea of innovation, and truly, even if you're not one of those people that looks to innovate, you partake in innovation. Cell phones didn't used to be around, now they are. Most everybody on the planet has a cell phone now, right? Yeah. So there's so much gratitude. I mean, every time something happens that could be perceived as lackluster windfall, you know what I mean? Something that's not great, that I step back and I look at it and I go, you know, what is there here for me? There's a couple of sayings in a course study that I've done, and one of them is that I know not what this is for, and I don't perceive my own best interests. So if I look at those two quotes and I think like, I don't know what this is for, what this is here to show me, and I don't perceive what's best for me, and I look at it as like what's here for me, then it gives me a place to step into gratitude. And half the time I turn around, I look back and go, wow, that was really great that happened. Right?
So the latter part of that. So I don't know what this is here for.
Right. I know not what this is for.
And okay. And then like the acknowledgement of it. And I'm not sure what's best for me, but I'm open.
Right. And I cannot perceive my own best interests. I mean, how many times in our past, I mean, COVID aside, that we think about things that have happened to us that were awful when we went through them. You know, people have gone through breakups or divorces or loss of a job, right? And yet we look back on it, and how often do we go, oh, I wish I was still there, right? So we're better for those things. And those moments when we're just feeling so awful and so bad for ourselves, I don't perceive my own best interests, because 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime away, I'm going to look at this and go, I'm so glad that happened.
Yeah. You know, I think there's that balance of saying if this is the reality of it, but almost without the full emotion. It's important to feel. It's important to feel, but then also to look at, and this is what's happened as a result. The things that you mentioned with the environment, families, and I think that's a really huge thing for our society, is that people are spending time with their kids, like quality time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, for me too, I've stopped to look, so I really couldn't get out with my camera, right? And still not, although we're starting to open things up here a little bit, but I figured a way to do things from a distance without even hardly getting out of my car. As a thank you to, you know, some hardworking,
I love that,
long-term care communities. I used to come outside with your mask and I'll photograph you out there, and I can stay in my car pretty much, or I got out and I stood and but I had a long lens. I was pretty far away, and I was able to capture that for them. And it made me feel good that I was still within the safety for both of us.
Yeah, and it's documenting a time right now. Aside from what you're dealing with what you do with Doggies for Dementia, I mean, you know that's near and dear to my heart. I've always thought what you do is so important. But you're also doing that during this time, and you're documenting this time.
Yeah.
Like that you know, an unexamined life is not worth living, and you definitely give that examination and that insight and that beauty to all those parts of life.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think one day, and I told them too, I said, you know, right now these are nice and that's great, but one day you put those on the wall, one day in years to come, someone's going to pass and go, why are they wearing masks? What's that about?
Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and they're working so hard to keep people safe, and their residents and their employees safe, and they're working really hard. And I thought, yeah, you know, you got to stop and be really grateful for that you can do that, and you are. And then those of us in the community to say, yeah, we're not there, but we're cheering you on.
Absolutely.
The reality of it is that's a tough thing. And
the whole thing, it definitely has its challenges. I'm not going to say that. And, you know, like when I drop my food off to my mom, when I'd go to the grocery store for her, we've been picking her up things here and there. And the other day we were at the grocery store and she'd only asked me for a couple of things. And I realized it's been like a month and she hasn't gotten any vegetables. So I was like, that's it. We went and got all these vegetables. But every time I bring anything to the house, you know, she's got several animals, dogs and cats and birds and whatnot. So they all hear me and see me out front, but she doesn't come outside. And I put everything on the chair and I wipe the handles down to the bags and everything. And she sits and waves at me and we both, like, you know, put our hand up on the glass. And like, it's those moments. It's like, it's okay. And it's okay if it's a little bit sad, and it's okay if it's happy. It's okay. Like, acknowledge it and then find the gratitude in the moment. I mean, we're human beings having a human experience. We're here to have emotions.
Yeah. Okay. So how then, if you were going to say like the top 3 tips for people to say, okay, help me find some gratitude here. obviously observation and taking a look at things, but are there specific things people could do if they're struggling with finding the gratitude or seeing any goodness in their situation right now?
I would say the number one would be experience your experience. Absolutely, wholeheartedly experience your experience, whatever it is. Experience it, because you don't want to resist. When you resist something, I shouldn't be sad, or I shouldn't be angry, or you don't want to resist it, because it just makes it hold still.
Yeah.
So experience your experience.
So like feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe even saying, I'm feeling really sad right now, or I'm feeling really.
I was trying to condense it for you because you were saying just like 3 steps, but like when I think about it, there's experience your experience, and then be able to communicate your experience. Okay. Even if it's just to yourself, like to be able to communicate, what is it that I'm feeling?
Or so maybe a journal, even to put it down in a journal might be helpful.
You can have it.
I'm a journalist.
You can have a journal. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I mean, I think a lot of times, and I noticed it even with the kids, they're not clear on what they're experiencing. And I think that a lot of adults are that way too, that they just aren't used to identifying what it is that they're feeling.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to have a label, but they need to have an understanding of, this is what I'm doing. I'm experiencing this.
I even think if I were to, because I love my big paper on the wall, right? If I have my big paper on the wall and I start writing down what I'm feeling and really get to the core of it, that paper would be pretty full with different feelings, because it's on both sides, all over the place. Yeah,
exactly.
Not at the same time, hopefully.
And it helps you be responsible for how you're feeling, right? Like if you're angry and you realize you've been acting a certain way and you're angry and you acknowledge, okay, this is anger, then you can be responsible in that moment for, okay, so I'm angry. And you might even be able to like follow it down a rabbit hole and make some shifts. I would say after that, and I'm going to turn it into 4 steps, but like have what you have. It is in this moment, this is what you have. There's that saying of everybody's doing the best they can with what they have in the moment. So have what you have. Like have some compassion, have some forgiveness for yourself, whatever it is. If you're sad, if you're angry, if you're joyful, whatever it is, just have what you have. It's okay. And then
so that's both emotional and even tangible, right?
Exactly.
I call that my inner MacGyver. I'm like, okay, I have everything I need. What is it I need to pull from? Right?
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. It could be anything. I'm thinking about a whole bunch of things and nothing's coming to mind right now. But I mean, just because I'm not in that headspace. Your car could break down. You could spill the milk all over the refrigerator. It is what it is. Yeah. You can be upset about it, and that's okay. And you can also just be like, it's spilled milk. That's all it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It's spilled milk. So have what you have, and then find something to be grateful for in that moment. Find something like what maybe the floor needed to be cleaned anyway.
Right.
And I was putting it off. Now it gets to be done.
Yeah.
So there's something, you can always turn it around. I know one time I left a pot on the stove, and I was running out of the house. I was going to be running out of the house, but I wanted the pot, what was in the pot. I was stewing some chicken for the dogs, and I wanted it to heat up so it would stay warm while we were out of the house. And I was like, I got to remember to shut it off. Well, I didn't. And thankfully it was not too far away from the house when the fire department or the alarm company called. But when I got back, the whole house was like smoke everywhere. And I cried. The dogs were safe. Thankfully, they were like very happy for me to get them outside, but I cried and felt awful about everything. But I was like, okay, so I don't know what this is for. I don't perceive my own best interests. And I was like, I joked. I said, well, I'm willing to burn it all down to have what I want. Just as a joke, like just to make it light. But the smoke remediation company that came in, they treated the house with something that like disinfected the house better than I could have possibly ever disinfected the house. Even the new carpet smell in one of the rooms was gone. And it was like, and it was cold and flu season too. So it was like, this was like hospital clean.
Wow.
right? So it's like, there's always something, like you don't know what this moment is for. And I don't know what my best interests are in this moment. So let's just ride the wave. I'm going to go ahead and cry about it. I feel bad. And then I'm going to get over it. And then I'm going to be able to look back on it and go, I might do it differently if I had to do all over again as my choice. And I'm really glad that that was the outcome.
Right. Right. And so many times I can think of things that happened at the time, but then I look back and go, oh, that was really a good thing, but I didn't see it at the time, of course. So I love what you're saying there. Like, we just don't know. We just don't know. Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. I have some friends who had a hard time finding something to be grateful about. You know, they were just in the swirl of losing their jobs and how am I going to support my family and just all the things that are happening, that the scarcity piece of the fear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there's fear and there's love. So, you know, where are you finding that? And they started journaling. They started with just one thing in the morning they're grateful for and writing one thing in the afternoon and in the evening. And pretty soon it ended up being a page of gratitude in the morning. And then, you know, it just kept growing because what you think about grows.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they realized what they were seeing looked different because they were seeing through the eyes of gratitude or love versus fear. When you look through fear, you see more fear.
Absolutely.
And this is certainly a good test for that because there's a lot going on, and I limit my news time. I want to know what's going on, but I don't want to be, I realized as I was sitting there watching, especially right after surgery, and my mother's used to watching much more news than I am. So I had it on a little bit more. I just had to get up a few times and just kind of shake it off. And just, I know a lot of that's happening, but
and that's good. Like you said, get up and shake it off. That's a good pattern to interrupt. Like I said, experience your experience. If you notice that you're really in a spot, my boyfriend loves to listen to the news stations, and he's really good about flipping back and forth between left wing and right wing, just so he hears everything. But there's times where I'm like, I'm done. I no more. And he starts getting really angry too when he does it for too long. Like his whole beingness. So I mean, think about it scientifically. Like if we think about a magnet, you have the positive side and the negative side. Like the positives are going to repel each other, obviously. But I mean, if you've got like littler pieces, if you're this really strong magnet and you're polarizing yourself negative, all these little negative pieces are going to come to your negative side to be more like you.
Yeah.
So we're like polarizing ourselves to be more and more what we say negative. But like if we say like being angry or being grumpy or not being able to find the gratitude would be negative, then that's what we're doing. We're starting to become like bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're validating ourselves by having too much of the news and listening to all this stuff. And then you start only seeing those things,
right?
Like your news feeds and everything else, because that's what you're available to, right?
Yeah.
So you make the conscious shift. Okay, so what is there to be grateful for in the moment? And for me, it's like, I'm grateful that he tells me the news sometimes and I get so, and then we watch like the funny parts of it. And I mean, I stay up to date, but I'm nowhere near the consumer he is for that reason, because news isn't north, east, west, south anymore. It's what everybody's opinion is. And I'm not interested in everybody's opinion. I want to know what happened.
Yeah, it's a lot, and trying to find, I had to do a little search to see, well, what's going to work best for me and what information. And I think that's important to be a good consumer and to really stop and look at what you're consuming and what you're watching, because it does matter. And then too, to, for that balance. And so to summarize then, so we're going to summarize here. Okay. So we're going through a tough time, to acknowledge what we're feeling. To acknowledge and
acknowledge, like experience your experience.
Yeah.
Be able to communicate it, like acknowledge it in some way, shape, or form that you get what it is.
Yeah, I love that. So experience your experience, and that it's okay. Because sometimes we're so judgmental on ourselves, you know, especially those of us who like to be positive. It's like, I can't believe I am just in a bad mood today. And then it gets worse because then we're mad at ourselves for being angry. Then it gets bigger. Yeah. So, and then the second piece of it, I'm going to let you say that because you had it worded so well.
I said experience your experience and then be willing to communicate it or be able to communicate it.
Yes.
And then So that would be number 2, like communicate it either to yourself, acknowledge it, whatever it is. Like if you want to journal about it, you said that's not bad at all. Like some way of getting it out. And then just have what you have. It's okay. Like surrender to this is what the milk is spilled on the floor. It's just milk. It's on the floor. Have what you have. I was feeling sad or I'm angry at myself for it. Have what you have. It is what it is.
Right.
That's being in the now, in the present. And then be grateful for everything. Like, what could you possibly be grateful for in this moment? Like, ask yourself. That's that I don't know that I don't know. Like, I don't perceive my own best interests. Well, what could they be? Well, the floor needed to be cleaned anyway, so now it's going to be clean. You know, whatever. So have what you have, and then just be grateful. So, and I love what you're saying too. And I know you and I have talked about that in the past about the gratitude journal, like one thing that you're grateful for. Yeah. Even if it's in that moment, or 3 things before you go to bed, or whatever.
Yeah, I you know, and I think for me too, going through a difficult time. So, you know, having cancer, now I can look and say, hey, I look at it and I put it in perspective, and I'll just say, okay, you don't have cancer. So is it really that bad of a thing, of XYZ, whatever it is? And it's not, right? Because I'm very fortunate, and I went through that, and it's over. But now I have that as a relatively speaking, right?
Right.
Is whatever happening that bad? And it isn't. It's unless it's life threatening, and it hasn't. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And we just don't know how things will end up looking when it's all over. And that gives me hope too. And
imagine
this is what it is. And
imagine what could possibly be born here. I mean, you think about like the last crash and how much things happened with the real estate market back in 2008, and all of the things that came out of that. We have Uber now. I mean, there's Airbnbs, all of that stuff came during that time. Like our world shifted, right? Cell phone technology and everything got better. So I'm just like, literally right now I have goosebumps because I'm thinking like, what could it be? Like, what's coming? Like,
what's next?
Really new stuff is out there. And you know me, I've got that laundry list of all these really crazy ideas and stuff that the world needs anyway. But like, who's actually acting on that right now? Like, what's actually happening behind the scenes that we're going to know about in like 2 years?
Yeah. And actually, those are the things I go looking for. I'm looking for those innovators like you. I'm looking for like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? Because they're the ones that it gives me more hope. And rather than going toward, you know, I get my fill of the negative, I got to know what's happening, and I feel that. And it's like, okay, now what are we doing with that? What are we doing with that? And I think we'll see some big changes. I think you're right.
I'm tickled pink. I cannot wait. I mean, I think about even innovations in the medical industry and things that they're doing. I think this is going to be pivotal in civilization, because this is a global thing, right?
Yes.
It's gonna affect the entire planet, like as a civilized planet. Like I think we're just gonna, Moore's law, you know, technology, and it expands, doubles every so often. It's gonna pop. And it's really, really exciting to be here right now. Yeah, there's stuff going on, and some of it sucks. And and there's so much good that's here. There's so much good. The family connection, the things that you're doing. There's so much good.
So much, yeah. So it's like that birthing process you started with. Like there's some pain to get to the beauty. And if we could just wait that out and find our best way through it, keep breathing, right? Keep breathing.
Yeah, we're not getting an epidural for this one.
No, I don't think. I think almost everybody is impacted in some way, and
for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kelly, so much. And I know this is going to help our audience a lot, because they're dealing with, you know, all the time caring for people and really tough times on top of other tough times. And yeah, I wanted to say too, a lot of caregivers have said to me, well, now the general population is feeling what we do all the time with the isolation and the loneliness. And maybe they'll have a different perspective on what it's like to experience that all the time. And they do, and they manage it, and they do. And so that's a piece of what I'm helping to bring out too, because I think it's important. We do have a new perspective on what it would be like to be stuck at home all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And your contact information will be in the video description and in the comments, because I want you all to be able to find Kelly. She's wonderful. And I know you work with people. Yes. So we'll have it all in there. Yeah. Thanks so much. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Let me stop this. My mouse goes to sleep.